Hi, I'm Robert Perry, and tonight I'm going to be talking with Katie Moyer from Kentucky Hemp Works. And the first thing I'm going to ask is, Katie, you're not here yet, right? So I always hate it when this happens. Now I'm in the awkward position of trying to figure out if Katie's going to show at all. Hey, James, James is here. My guest isn't here. James is going to be my guest on Thursday. Maybe we should just switch real quick. I've actually not heard from Katie. Always makes for an awkward situation. Little stressed, little anxiety. I wonder if I could find something to help me out with the anxiety here. We'll just go shop. Maybe get some extra strength CBD drops. Maybe that would help. I don't know. Sometimes guests show up just a few seconds after I start. By the way, I was checking the store out last night. I'm really excited to try these fire starters. Let's roll with it. You want to hijack the show? We'll get to I love my people. I love my people so very, very much. All right. Tell you what, James, I will throw you the link. Hi, Amanda. Are you waving? You're just waving. All right. James, I'm going to throw you the link, and I'll let you hijack the show, man, since Katie isn't here. Maybe you know a little about hemp. Maybe you know a little about something else. Let me grab an invite here. And let me throw this over to James. This is going to be our first 100% ad hoc show. James was going, excuse me while I move this around. James was going to be the show on Thursday. There you go, James. Now you have a link. Now you can come join the show and teach us about Kentucky Hemp Works. Or maybe something else. By the way, I have a really, really exciting guest on Thursday. I'm sorry, not Thursday, Friday. Not going to tell you who it is yet. I am going to tell you it's so exciting of a guest that I couldn't get them on live. So, hi. Wow, we have 31 people here to see Katie, and Katie isn't here. I'm sorry. She's not here. James Toller's going to join. Oh, wait, there's Katie.
Hi, I'm sorry.
There's Katie.
I had some technical difficulties.
That happens sometimes. Never mind, James. We got Katie. James was going to
sorry.
James was going to teach us about hemp products. I was experiencing anxiety. Do you have any?
Too. Oh no, I'm also experiencing a lot of anxiety right now, actually. So I'm sorry for being late.
Do you have any products you recommend for that?
For anxiety, yeah. Actually, the number one product we have is our hemp seed oil, which is the base for basically all the other products. And the hemp seed oil is an overall wellness tool where CBD is sort of widely known to be helpful with anxiety. And we have a lot of people who use it. But it's also important to remember the good nutrition that you get from the seeds as well as the CBD.
That sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and get the 32 ounce then. We'll add that to the cart. Oops, I don't really want to do that right now. I seriously am going to end up ordering some of the fire starters. Try those out. But this isn't meant to be like a advertisement for you. So that's not where I want to start. Where I want to start is how did you get into hemp? Because I've been into hemp for frickin' ever, but how did you get in? It's too late to fix your hair.
I know it's been messed up this whole time, but I took my glasses off, so now I can't see anything. So you guys just see what I see.
The good news is you can't see if your hair's messed up. You can just roll with it.
Right. I just roll with it. It's fine. So I actually got started with my interest in hemp a long time before we legalized it and actually started growing. So I mean, there was a period of time before Kentucky Hemp Works where this was just an idea.
No.
And were
you always interested in hemp, or you got there another way?
Oh, well, you can't do that. I can't see you. Remember, I don't have my glasses. But you know,
right.
I think I'm cool with all of it. I'm fine with all of it. But I also think people jump to smoking right away when they should be looking at everything that cannabis does, and not just hemp. I mean, everything that marijuana does, everything that high THC concentrations of marijuana does, but also all of the seed health, the health and the incredible dietary benefits that come from the seed often get overlooked. And I often say, THC and CBD and that sort of joke about it being, kind of a stoner thing, like that sort of stereotype is only focusing in on one small aspect of hemp. There are so many more things. I mean, even growing high THC plants, if you're eating them as microgreens, which we can't do in Kentucky because it's illegal to have live plants if you're not licensed with the state. But if you're eating those microgreens, you're getting all kinds of nutritional benefits and enzymes that you don't have in the plant when it's mature. You get other great things and other great benefits from the plant when it's mature, and you have all that THC or all that CBD or whatever. But with the microgreens, the little sprouts, eating those is one of the best. It's one of the things that we should be doing out in the wild every day. We should just be allowed to go out and, we get too many hemp, just take some of it and make a salad with it. It's wonderful for you. And there's a lot of research being done. There's a lot of really good documented research that shows the importance of eating hemp and using hemp in all its stages and all the different parts of the plant. So
now it hasn't always been easy to research, though, has it?
Well, no, actually for years, Dr. Dave West, who worked in Hawaii, was doing research on hemp seeds. He was going to propagate hemp seeds, and he had everything in place. He was getting seeds from China or Asia somewhere, and the DEA wouldn't even allow him to import it. So they wouldn't actually give the license. You had to have a license from the DEA. So you had to have the blessing of the top drug enforcement agency in the country in order to do your hemp research. And of course, they weren't really interested in issuing research licenses. So they would rather demonize the plant and just continue to fight it. So that's what we had.
You can't play with this because there's no scientific foundation for why you need it, and you can't do research because you can't get a license because it's a bad plant and there's no valid reason you should have it.
Right.
Thanks.
Pretty much. But there's been tons of research in other countries. That sort of thing never quit. So in other countries, there's been research this whole time, really great research. And Israel is sort of at the leading edge of all the cannabis research in the world. But in addition to Israel, there's all these other countries that have never stopped researching cannabis. They've been researching it for decades or centuries. I mean, even back when you're just getting journals of people who were doctors, not even big medical journals, but now you can find hemp in all kinds of medical journals, and but not so much in this country. So we have a long way to go on research in this country. There is some really significant research in some of the more progressive states, like California does have some really good university research out there on THC specifically, and all the different uses of cannabinoids. And of course, I'm missing a bunch of them, but it seems like obviously the states that have a more progressive or a more, I don't want to say liberal, I mean liberal in the sense of freeing up their cannabis laws so that they can grow marijuana. In those places, we have more research and really terrific research. And, while we're on here, I might as well suggest a book that is fantastic for it's really specific to THC, but there's a lot of great information about everything. And that is The Science of Marijuana. And that's the name of the book, The Science of Marijuana. And it's Dr. Leslie Iverson. It's one of my favorite books on hemp because it's research study after research study after research study, and just one after another. But then he breaks those studies down using his strength in pharmacology. He's a professor of pharmacology, I think at Oxford or something in England. And he uses that knowledge to break things down so that folks like us can understand without having a medical degree. So.
Right. I think I sidetracked you a little with my silly stoner joke and missed how you actually got into this. How did you?
Well, long story short, for me, it was a property rights issue. I've always believed real strongly in property rights, and it's not ever something that I had a name to. I didn't think when I was 18 or 20 or 22, like in my early adulthood, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm a conservative or I'm a libertarian or I'm a liberal. But I was thinking like, I like my privacy. I'm not really, believe it or not, a very social person. Like I'm happy to just sit in the backyard in the sunshine, counting butterflies and grass. Like that's fine. So, but I started to learn. It was the presidential election of 2008, and I started to learn about the candidates. Early on, I was attracted to some of the Democrat candidates only because I heard them talking about ending all these wars all around the world. And I thought, oh, that's definitely something. I'm an Army brat. Like, I definitely don't want to see war, and our soldiers policing the world. So, and I didn't really used to feel like that. I was raised just sort of without thinking about, I wasn't ever thinking about politics. So, it was just kind of a new thing. And I got really excited about Ron Paul. I'll just come out and say it, like Ron Paul is my hero. And he's like every little libertarian kid's grandpa around 2007, 2008. Like everybody just adopted him as their Liberty grandpa. And
that's right.
So I kind of did that, but I would say that was the time that I started to learn about hemp, and I started learning about how government manipulates the property rights that I think that I have by the grace of God, and how they manipulate us out of actually having those rights. So I didn't think there was any reason that people shouldn't be able to grow hemp in their backyard. And I still don't. I think everybody should be able to grow them in their backyard.
Yeah, libertarians have been against the war on drugs since 1971 when we were founded. So we've always been there. And it's funny. I had a Democrat this year on one of my posts basically like, hey, happy to hear you guys are finally coming around. It's like, yeah, no.
Coming around, right, no. Right.
Yeah, we've
well, you're glad everybody has come all the way back around to where the libertarians sit. And I think a lot of people are just naturally a little libertarian. Like, isn't everybody a little bit libertarian, really? Like, unless you just want somebody up in your business all the time.
I love the little diamond-shaped political survey. I have, libertarians end up at the top, and then total statists are at the bottom. I have actually given that to some people who come off very close to status. They do exist.
So they're out there. Well, luckily
they're
there's
out
not
there.
Many, I don't think.
Much to my horror, they're out there. But I gotta somebody throw up a link to that quiz if you've got it handy. If not, I'll throw it up later. But that's one of the things I actually love about that survey. It's fairly honest. But let's get back to hemp. So what happened after 2008?
Well, we spent about 5 years working to legalize hemp. In 2013, we passed a bill here in Kentucky to legalize hemp, and that bill was sponsored by Paul Hornback in the Senate here, the state Senate. James Comer was the ag commissioner at the time, and he really championed that bill. And we had support from, and this was an interesting part about it, but we had support from our federal delegation, and we had Thomas Massey, who was the sort of libertarian of the bunch. We had Rand Paul, who was the sort of less libertarian, maybe, I don't know, but I don't know. They're both pretty libertarian.
He's a lot more than most.
Yeah, he's maybe not off the grid all the way yet. Like when he gets a Tesla and Rand Paul goes off grid, then he'll be out there. But and then we had John Yarmuth, who is about the opposite of Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. And they all came together. They came into a hearing. It was a big deal. It was widely recorded and talked about in the media. And
is owning a Tesla a libertarian thing?
Well, when you're Thomas Massey, you have a Tesla, and then you have a backup Tesla to power your solar house and be completely off the grid. So I put him further on the libertarian spectrum than others, just for that.
Yeah, we do have a unusual number of Teslas. I have a Tesla. Kyle O'Donnell, who did live here in Kentucky, he moved back to Maryland. He has a Tesla. I think Brandon, I really should know his last name. He's one of my down ballot candidates. He has a Tesla. Kyle's story is really interesting. Get one. They are awesome. Kyle got his because he was spending like $700 or $800 a month on gas, where he was doing all these deliveries of products. So Kyle literally just made his Tesla payment just on what he saved on gas.
That's awesome. That's awesome. My only concern is, where do you charge them up in the boonies? If there's anywhere outside of your house, you just charge it up at home.
I charge mine at my house, first of all. And thank you, Joe. Brandon Wright. Yeah, I should have known that. Basically, I can charge about 10% of it per hour. But for day-to-day driving, it turns out very, very practical. You drive wherever you get home, you plug it up, you go in, and it gets done charging on its own. You don't. It's not like you have to watch and go, oh, it's time to unplug. Yeah, you just leave it plugged up.
Nice. Sounds great. Sort of like your phone.
Yeah, very much. What were we talking about? Hemp.
When we legalized hemp, and so after we actually passed a bill here in Kentucky, there was still some work to do on the federal level. Senator McConnell and Rand Paul and Thomas Massey, they worked on the federal level to legalize hemp through an amendment to the Farm Bill. And that amendment passed along with the Farm Bill. It just kind of went through. There was some behind the scenes. Actually, I just did an interview with Thomas Massey where he tells that story about how the Farm Bill actually got through, which is on our YouTube channel, which is Kentucky Hemp Works. It was one of our hemp homeschool videos. And once they kind of worked together and they all got it through, that allowed all the states, through either their Department of Agriculture or through a university, to grow hemp for research, but it had to be for research. So our commissioner at the time, who was still James Comer, he just kind of let us start growing hemp as a sort of an extension of the ag department. Mm-hmm. We signed contracts and had an agreement essentially to submit the information and whatever data we would get out of our little research project. And in the first year, there were only 8 or 9 projects. I think there was only 4 original projects. And I was one of those 4, and we grew 1.5 acres here. I teamed up with 2 different local farmers on 2 different ends of the county, and we grew about 1 acre of fiber hemp at each location. So the one location didn't do so great, but we got some really great information and absolute wonderful education from the crop that did really well. And the reason it did well, we had irrigation down there and it was a drought. So obviously on the field we had irrigation. The crop survived and did really great. The field that didn't have the irrigation, it was good research, let's just say that. So
needs water.
Plant needs water, yes. Which reminds me, there's a tremendous amount of there's a lot of bad information about hemp, like that it does grow, with hardly any water, it doesn't need any nutrients, and it grows anywhere. All those things are sort of wishful thinking. You get out of it what you put into it. So if you take good care of it, you feed it, make sure it has adequate water, you can grow a good crop. So
is it true that it's pest resistant?
It's definitely doesn't have as many enemies as other pests. I think that what we would find is if we start growing it here and we're growing it here for a long time, we're probably going to see new pests that maybe aren't as interested in hemp right now because it's not around. They're not eating it anyway.
Right.
But then once it becomes available, if they decide they like it, we might have some problems. But
it's like if we introduced Martian lettuce, it would also not have any pests, just because they're like, what's this?
Right. But it definitely doesn't take as much. And a lot of times from what we've seen, the plants that do really need pest control are the weaker plants, the ones that aren't doing so well. So when you have some sort of disease or injury to the plant, they tend to get attacked more often. So things like that, it definitely, there are things that'll eat hemp for sure. But we haven't seen anything overwhelming yet.
Cool. So you mentioned that YouTube video you mentioned with Thomas Massey, you mentioned Hemp Homeschool. What was that?
Yeah. Hemp Homeschool is just a series of videos that we've been doing for the last few months, I guess it's been.
Okay.
When the whole quarantine thing happened and everything was scary and everybody was panicking and I was like, whoa, I need to stay at my house. Like all my meetings got canceled all over the state. Stuff that I'd had on the calendar for 6 months was all of a sudden a Zoom meeting. And so, but there was also, everything got crazy. And we also were fine. We were okay here. We have food on our plates and a roof on our head. And I don't have a lot of overhead. I'm not behind on my bills. So everything was okay for us. And I thought, well, I wish I could do something to help people. I can't afford to get 1 million masks and donate them to medical, to hospitals. And I can't offer grants to small businesses and, stuff like that. Like there wasn't a whole lot that we were going to be able to do financially to make an impact in our communities, so to speak. So I just thought, well, one thing I can do is talk about hemp all day long. So that's kind of what we started doing. My sister had the idea, like she was like, oh, you should do like a homeschool video, like a hemp homeschool. And it sort of just burst from there. And we got to talking about it and we tried a bunch of different things and it was really fun. And we're also learning a lot. We've done, I think, 31 lessons so far, and they're all just about different things. And I start out with just some basics, about the plant. And then somewhere in the middle, we start talking about cookies, how to make cookies with your protein. And then we talk about politics and we talk about fishing with hemp and using we have a fish attractant that goes great with fire starters. So
there we go.
Yeah. And so yeah, Hemp Homeschool was born out of the coronavirus. And so I guess I'll just say thanks, quarantine, for giving us some free time and I guess the desire to do something to give back. So
do you find that under blog or you just go find your YouTube channel?
It's all on our YouTube channel. So most of them were Facebook Live videos. We did Facebook Live for a lot of them. And then eventually I learned that I actually could figure out some simple video editing. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I could piece together some things, or I could cut out some bad parts. And so we started just putting a couple videos together and here and there. And so now we're sort of thinking more to actually create videos and put them on YouTube, as opposed to doing live videos, which don't always work. Like when, you know, my chickens aren't behaving and my kid is coming on the screen. And so like, we had one video that I did at home that I was like, oh my God.
Sometimes the guest just doesn't show up.
I know, right? That's a big one. That's sometimes they don't show up, and you're like, "Oh my God, what am I supposed to do here?"
Now
well, if it's any consolation, I'm late for a lot of things, so I apologize.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I actually, yeah. I had one guest that just didn't show up at all. That was a hard one. But,
I'm glad that was not me.
I'm glad that wasn't you. This is a good talk. So I think James was mostly trying to be funny here, but James Toller is saying it would be funny to see a bird flying in the air higher than a kite, lol. But what because what you're allowed to grow is like really low THC content. But even taking that away, even if it was high THC content, you know, what's that content like?
THC content, the birds aren't really going to be smoking it, so it wouldn't be an issue really for birds at all. Even if they ate the leaves themselves or the buds, that bird is not going to. I mean, he's not going to eat that much. First of all, the bird would. What I'm getting at is the bird is going to be a lot more interested in the seeds than he is the flower. The buds of the plant, the flowers of the plant are, that's where most of the cannabinoids are concentrated. But when that plant gets pollinated, and it gets pollinated and starts to produce seeds, and that's just a natural part of plant reproduction, right? The plants get pollinated from the male plants, and then they produce seeds. So what we do is harvest the seeds, and if a bird is out there in the field eating hemp, they're probably going to be eating seeds. And the seeds have such a low amount. I mean, there practically is no THC in seeds. I mean, you might, maybe your buds there might have rubbed on the seed and there was a small amount of it on the seed physically. But once you crush that seed and you know, you squeeze it out into oil and things like that, it's, so birds probably aren't going to get high. And even if they did, they'd probably be really happy. And that doesn't matter. That's not limited to just hemp either. So in marijuana, and even in the high THC plants, you're not going to have very much THC in the seeds because it's just not part of that plant. That's just a reproductive part of the plant. It's the offspring. So,
by the way, hemp seeds and salads are awesome.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I mean, you know, with salad, because you can't just eat lettuce and a couple of tomatoes and call it a meal, because you're going to have like 70 calories.
Yeah.
Right. You need that other stuff. So, you know, classic fixes for that are add steak or add chicken or something like that. Right. But you can add hemp seeds and get there like that, because maybe 170, 180 calories per ounce. Is that going to be about right?
Oh, I don't know. I'm terrible at math.
Okay.
But let me see. My mom brought me some stuff, but I don't have a nutrition label here.
Well, 3 tablespoons.
170 calories and 3
tablespoons. See if that isn't an ounce.
Mom.
I bet you can find out later. But yeah.
We have all that information on our website. In fact, there's pictures of the nutrition panel on there, so you can check that out. We've also had some of those hemp homeschool videos about cooking with the protein and adding it to food. And we also sometimes have substitute teachers, so it's not just me, but other people who share their strengths and their knowledge with us as well. So like the cooking, for example, I can cook, but I'm not very fancy or good at it. And so we have other people making things and sharing those as well. But as far as food goes, this is something that should be incorporated into everybody's diet. We all, just from the standard American diet, we're all suffering from poor food choices. And
Right.
it's not for lack of trying. I think a lot of people are trying to buy local more. There's a big local vor movement. They call it the local vor movement. There's a lot of that going on, and people are wanting to eat better. So I think, this is just one way to bring that to them.
Well, I made a lot of changes in my diet at once in about 2010. So I can't really attribute, cause to effect very well. It's like, here's a bunch of causes, here's, a bunch of effects. But
Right.
Switching to hemp milk, adding hemp, I still have milk like in coffee and stuff like that, but I like hemp milk and some granolas. Like, I just like it better. It's like but hemp milk's really, really awesome, and has a really good balance of omega-3s and omega-6s. And along the way, one of the effects I got was, now I lost a lot of weight, but I went from borderline high cholesterol. The only reason they didn't say I had high cholesterol was because my good cholesterol was so good. It's like my bad was too high, but my good was insanely good.
And it kept your cholesterol in check. Yeah, we actually hear that we hear that at least 2-3 times a week, most likely. Because people are like, oh, by the way, this happened when I went to my doctor's appointment. And we're like, oh, great.
Right.
It's good to know. And
now my bad's crazy low, and my good's even better. So
great.
But yeah, I don't know. Give it a try. Experiment on yourself. It's got to be better than fish cleaner. What was that? Hydroxychloroquine.
Is that what they're using for cholesterol?
No, that's what they're using for COVID.
Oh,
and by the way, we are not implying that CBD fixes COVID.
Yeah, no medical claims were made in the filming of this interview.
No. So how big is Kentucky Hemp Works? Did you found that, or we never got to that?
Yeah, well, once we started growing hemp, we just started tinkering around with the roots. The roots were a big part of how we got started, because it was one of the things that we had to work with and we didn't need a lot of equipment for. And we started with nothing, but just some recipes and a little bit of hard work. And what happened was we learned that people needed what it was that we made. So we made a topical salve, and the salve was just made with olive oil and hemp roots. And the hemp roots were doing things that were so bizarre to us, like I mean, not bizarre, but wonderful. They were doing wonderful things. They were helping people. And of course, I can't make any medical claims. I'm trying to think of how do I say this without making any medical claims? But we started making root salve, and people started calling and saying, hey, I haven't taken a painkiller all week, and I really need some more of that salve. And so
anecdotal observations.
Anecdotal observations out the roof, like through the roof anecdotal observations. So that's kind of what started it. I borrowed some money from my mom. A friend of mine that is working with us now, she and I work together on this a lot. She borrowed like a couple bucks from her friend to get some labels, and I borrowed money from my mom to get a stainless steel 3-bay sink and a hand washing station. And that's where it really started. So paid them back pretty quickly, and just from root salve. And then the next step of that was we invested in an oil press to cold press the hemp seed oil. And then we started substituting hemp seed oil for our recipes instead of, like, why was I buying olive oil at this point? Because I don't need olive oil if I have hemp seed oil. And the whole philosophy was to do everything out of Kentucky hemp anyway. So like, why not use Kentucky hemp for everything? And so now we use the roots. We use the stalks, and like products like the fire starters that you mentioned, some future products that we're really excited about, but I can't talk about yet. And we use the roots, as I mentioned. The seeds we use for oil and protein. So we're crushing the oil and we're crushing the seeds, and we're breaking that down into oil and protein, or seed cake, the dry parts of the seed. So we're squeezing out, it's sort of like a food processor. You're squeezing out the seeds and all the dry stuff is left over. So, which also has an oil content, because there's still a small amount of oil left over in the seed cake. There always is. But then those benefits of the hemp seed oil are also sort of transferring over into the protein. So that seed cake or that protein, it's predominantly fiber, but it's got a high level of protein. So we're usually around 31 or 32% protein just right out of the seed.
Wow.
And so that's great for animals. It's great for people. It's great for vegetables. Like, it's great for your garden as an amendment to your soil. There's just, you can use it for anything you could use any seeds for. If you can eat these seeds, you can feed them to animals usually, and it's a great snack, and it's plenty of protein. Like, it's even too much protein for some animals. So all of these things, we learned about all these ideas, and we discovered ideas, but we also worked with other companies to get them some raw materials. So if they wanted to make bath soap and they needed hemp seed oil, but they didn't want to get it from Canada, they wanted to get it from Kentucky, they would get it from us. And if they wanted the protein to make dog treats, like gourmet dog treats, then they would get those from us. And we've helped, even if they're not getting them from us, we've helped all kinds of companies by connecting them with people that do other things that we don't do, like cannabinoids. Like, we don't do any CBD extraction. We're not like one of those big multi-million-dollar CBD companies that's like, state-of-the-art science lab and all that stuff. Like, we're definitely more farm than chemistry lab. But we still, we cook. We're a kitchen. We're a certified kitchen, and cooking is still chemistry. So it's definitely fun.
And I sort of got that vibe. One of the first things I noticed on your website is you're friendly toward your fellow Kentucky business people. You have a page where you're, we're kind of on a team. People tend to get in their head that capitalism's cutthroat all the time, and
Capitalists are some of the best people I know.
Right. I've competed with some of my clients, and I don't know, we all get along. It's fun, actually. So you now that they've, I'm sorry?
My mom's awesome. She brought me some water.
Oh, okay.
Cheers.
I'm out of coffee. Mom, I could use some. No.
She said she'll get you 5 minutes.
Awesome. So now that they've passed the legislation at the state level and federal level, everything good?
No. Well, you would think, but not really. There's still a really, really long way to go with regards to truly having your property rights in relation to growing hemp and where we are right now.
Well, give me some pet peeves.
Some big pet peeves is there's a lot of restrictions on how you can sell hemp. So you can't sell it. You can't sell any of the bud material, the flower material, the leaves. You can't sell leaves to smoke, but you also can't sell leaves to use in art or to press. And, you can't press leaves in a book and decoupage it onto anything, because it's just this silly idea that, oh my God, if we let people have leaves, law enforcement isn't going to be able to tell if it's marijuana or not. And it's like, well, so what if they can't? You can do 400 other things with those leaves that have nothing to do with getting high. So why not let them?
Right.
So there's still a lot of things. So the fact that we can't sell live hemp to people outside of the hemp program in Kentucky is a big downfall for us. Even if it's not live, like even if you can't sell dried flower material to somebody else in Kentucky, we can't do that in Kentucky. So
Wow.
Other states have that advantage over us. Tennessee, which is 20 miles that way, they can sell all the hemp flower they want.
Where's my state candidates? So we need James Toller, Amanda Billings. We need Jacob Clark. I have a whole page of down ballot candidates. Where are my down ballot candidates? There we go.
I know Amanda. She's in this area. She's over in Todd County, I believe.
She pointed me to you. She's like, you got to talk to Katie. Who? Katie, you got to talk.
We're practically neighbors.
Okay.
We're only a county or two apart.
So you can always trust libertarians to want to get rid of regulations. So yeah, if you need it fixed at the state level, go talk to my down ballot buddies. And Amanda isn't even down ballot for me. She's sort of down and over, but that's okay. Christian County. There we go.
Oh yeah, that's right. She's in my county too, but we're like on the other side. I live way on one end of the 3 counties and she's over on the other. But yeah, she's in my county.
Yay.
I got a libertarian to vote for. Who will I vote for?
Yeah. You've got at least 3. You've got the local. Yeah. You've got Brad Barron. It might be a good time to have a talk with Mitch about anything you need, and because if it comes to deregulating things, you know, libertarians are going to represent what you want. So you have Brad, and then of course you have Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen for president and VP pick, and Joe really does impress me more every time I listen to her. And she was at the state convention. She was awesome there too.
Oh, nice.
I'm sorry. What more problems? What problems we need to fix?
Well, I mean, before we even get onto that, I would just say Joe Jorgensen is one of the most amazing, one of the most inspirational women that I've seen run for office since I've been paying attention. If you look at her, like, I like certain things about certain people and I like other things about other people. But there's a lot of things that I really love about her, and just pretty much everything. She's a rock solid. It's too bad that, you know, the kind of 2-party system just wants to act like she's not there.
Right.
'Cause I think she would, you know, even if she doesn't win, like, just let her up on the stage and let her have her voice, because we have a lot going on lately with, you know, women and minorities and this, that, and the other. Like, why do we only want to hear from like old white men?
Well, you know, something I really love about the idea of voting for Joe is what I don't want is I don't want a woman to be president just because she's a woman.
Not just because she's a woman,
right?
For sure. But because she's an awesome woman who has a great track record and an incredible resume, like that would be a great reason to vote for her.
Right. I would love to have Joe as president. Oh, she's a female bonus. I mean, that's great.
Right.
What I don't want is I don't want a, you know, piece of poo president that none of us really want, but she's a woman, let's vote for her. It's like, no.
Yeah, but more importantly, she's for, you know, not policing the world and not trying to run our lives. You know, I think that's just something that's important to focus on how much our lives would be better if we didn't have government breathing down our necks for everything, and then spending huge amounts, you know, billions and trillions of dollars on things that hurt people and things that take people's stuff and you know, killing people in other countries. And, you know, we're doing things through government that we wouldn't do to our neighbors. Like, I would never in a million years drone strike my neighbor, even if I was mad at him, even if he was trying to hurt me. Like, I would not drone strike somebody. And so I don't really want to ask the government to do that for me. And I feel like Joe is the one who's absolutely going to be, you know, not drone striking US citizens and things like that, which have happened in other countries. So
Thank you, Katie. That's
Yeah. So about that soapbox, yeah. Glad you said this was casual.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm interested in people expressing their passion. If it was just me expressing me, I don't need you. But no. So I do have kind of a firmish stop in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
I want to get out. I want to get out the other things we need to fix on THC, because I'll go back and take notes and make sure my down ballot candidates know and get it to my peers, because we also have 3 running at federal level. Me running for D2 against Brett. We have Brad running for Senate against Ditch Mitch, yay. And then we have Frank Harris running for D6 against, oh man, brain fart.
Andy Barr.
Andy Barr, thank you. Someone pays attention to politics, thank goodness.
Well, and I know Frank. I've known Frank since probably 2007.
Yeah.
He was one of the people that I met earliest when I was learning and getting involved in politics. So he's a good personal friend of the family.
Awesome.
Yep, good dude.
Any more problems for us to fix? Go ahead.
Well, definitely you mentioned the THC levels. That's really important because what we're doing right now, the way that we're regulating cannabis in general, is an arbitrary measurement of the amount of THC in the plant. So it's arbitrary for a few reasons. Like, first of all, it's just an arbitrary pick. The number 0.3% THC was just picked. That's the number for how much THC can be in the plant. If it's over that amount, if it's higher than 0.3%, then it's marijuana. And if it's under 0.3%, then it's hemp. But just because something is over 0.3% THC doesn't mean that anybody's going to get high. But the government idea of this is that we're going to prevent people from using it to get high by arbitrarily picking this very low number that really limits hemp farmers from being able to grow a variety of crops and grow for different purposes and grow different styles and experiment with their varieties.
So do you have any idea what the THC level would be of a nice competitive variant of marijuana?
So I think the general rule of thumb is around 5% THC is when it starts to have a psychoactive effect. It might be higher or lower, just barely from that. But right now, I am pretty sure that in a dispensary, they won't even look at something that's like 20% THC or lower. Like, it needs to be 20, 25% THC for them to even look at it, unless it's got a healthy balance of THC and CBD, because there are benefits to both. And some people do better with where they have the same amount, THC and CBD in the same amounts. Some people do better with the higher THC. They get maybe more pain relief, or they get sometimes more anxiety relief. But then on the other way, sometimes people get better anxiety relief from a high CBD and a low THC. So what we need to think about is that this is a very big picture. Hemp is a small part of a big picture, and marijuana, or high THC marijuana, is also a small part of this. But there are different ratios. There's different things. Some people don't need CBD or THC. And, my accountant would probably get mad at me for telling people all the time, like, hey, you might not need CBD at all. Just go take some hemp seed oil and see if that helps, or put it on your skin, or put it on your hair or your scalp or your feet or whatever, and just try it, because it's just vegetable oil. It's just an oil. That's all it is. Women put oil on their faces every day to take their makeup off. They call it toner. They call it all kinds of names, and they charge you $800 for a little bottle. What
their accountant's not going to like you either.
Nature. What's that?
Now the accountants of those manufacturers aren't going to like you either.
The cosmetics industry, yeah.
No accountants like Katie.
No accountants like me, because I just honestly, I'll be honest with you, like I never went into this thinking I'm going to make some money. I'm going to create my own job. I'm going to create jobs for other people. Like that was never my goal. My goal from the very beginning was property rights. I wanted to make it so that somebody else could grow their own hemp. I want everybody to be able to process their own hemp. I want everybody on this planet to be able to make their own hemp root salve and sell it to people if they want to. I want them to make their own CBD. Like, I don't think there's any reason that you should have to buy from me. But for now, if you can buy from me and then that helps me to maybe make my utopian dream of all cannabis being legal, make that happen and unregulated. I mean, why are we regulating this? Like nobody's ever died. Nobody's ever died from smoking pot. Even if you smoke all the pot you can possibly smoke before you pass out, the difference is when you pass out, when you take too much heroin or fentanyl or aspirin or sunshine, when you take too much of those things, you can pass out and die. You can pass out cold and die. If you take too much marijuana, you will pass out and wake up and probably be hungry and happy and in a great mood. Like there's a very small number of people who have any negative reactions to cannabis, and it's usually more like an allergy than like they overdosed on it. Like there's really, but the problem is sometimes when people overdose on other drugs, they also have cannabis in their system. And then so the justice system looks at that as evidence and they say, well, this guy had fentanyl in his system, but he also had a marijuana in his system. Well, marijuana stays in your bloodstream for 28 days, give or take. Like that marijuana could have been in his system from 2 weeks ago and he just died from fentanyl. But what you see on the headlines is, guy dies with marijuana in his system, and then there was fentanyl. So
anything to push the agenda.
Anything to push the agenda. So long-term goal for me, I would say, is make it so that everybody can grow their own hemp, eat their own hemp from their backyard garden, just like you pick cucumbers and tomatoes and everything else.
That's a beautiful vision. Me and my family, my fellow libertarians are definitely all for that, as you already know. Katie, thank you for joining and sharing, and thank you for changing the world this way. I mean, you said you didn't mean to create jobs for people. You got to watch out. As soon as you're productive, you start creating jobs for people. So you have to be very careful to be unproductive if you don't want to create jobs for people. Right.
If I would have sat around on my butt and not done anything, then my God.
You almost have to. It's the only way to avoid it. It really is.
Right. And doing something that you're passionate about, it's almost not even like work. So
absolutely. So I will point out to people, I already pointed out that you could go to my webpage and check out the down ballot candidates. You can also donate money to me because I'll find something to do with it. I'll get yard signs or bumper stickers or spend money promoting things like this as Facebook ads. But also you can go to my website, learn more about what I'm about, or you can ping me on Facebook, ask me questions, suggest other guests to have on, anything like that. Katie, thank you again for joining, and I hope everyone has a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thanks. My mom brought your coffee, so here it is. You just take that.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for letting me get on my soapbox a little bit. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's a good soapbox.
Good luck with everything, with the campaign and everything.
All right, great. Thanks. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
You too.